everybody. Welcome to Film Freaks TV. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody. And today we have a full house. Hold on, I've got my other special guest here. We're going to bring him on right now because still having him in the waiting room. So we have a full house today. So let me go down the line and introduce everybody. First of all, we've got Paul Presenza here, my co-host for the show. How are you doing, Moo Cow?
Oh, hang on.
I'm doing marvelous. How's it going over there?
It's going great. And then we've got Joe Turek here. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing fantastic. And we also have Alfred Crane here. How are you doing, Alfred?
Excellent, primo good.
And what's great about this is the first time we've had all three of these guys on here at the same time. When they were, the first episode of Film Freaks we did was The Fog. So John Carpenter's The Fog. So I just think that's really great, you know. And next we have a special guest here who just joined us, Tom Konkle. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, good. Hi, guys. Alfred,
Hey, Tom.
Joe, Paul.
Hello.
Hey,
Nice
Tom.
to see you.
Alfred,
Pleasure. Sorry,
Tom,
running
Tom,
a little
Alfred.
bit late.
Yeah, it's okay.
How are you?
You know, you're right on time, man.
Absolutely.
We just started.
Okay.
So
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're all glad to be here talking about one of probably, I don't know, it's my favorite Steven Spielberg movie. Now, Joe and I are doing like a thing for the mainstream talking about Steven Spielberg. We did a part 1, and then now we're going to do a part 2. And so I'm finishing up watching some of the movies I haven't seen of his. So there's a few like Schindler's List, and I swear I don't think, like, no matter what, how great it is not going to be like one of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies. Probably it's one of those movies.
Watch.
Yeah, it's a difficult watch, I'm sure. So I haven't watched it yet. I'm trying to get some time to just like really sit down and
You've
watch
seen it before, though, right?
No, never.
Oh.
First time. So
Uh-huh.
and the main reason is because it's such a difficult, thing, to watch. I don't know.
It's not a fun sit down and watch. That's
This is not something I'm going to go and make some popcorn and just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah.
So I
To
want
me,
to
I
watch
don't
it.
even. To me, I don't even consider it a film so much as I do an experience. I mean,
Okay.
obviously it's a film in a great way, but it's more of an experience, something that'll affect you.
Yeah, that's well put. It's
But-
more than just watching a story. It's really Spielberg's using his powers for a very different effect in Schindler's List, in my opinion. He uses all his cinematic tricks, but without any of the entertainment affectations. It's him using his technical prowess and his ability to bring out performances to just give you a gut punch and put you in the room with a side of humanity we would never want to spend time with, but we need to.
Wow.
And it's a warning more than anything else.
And I think it's one of those films where you kind of go into it knowing and expecting that, too. It's kind of like, the same thing like Jonathan was saying. You don't go there expecting a party and bringing popcorn and snacks. Well, it's just like you don't go to the Holocaust Museum and take selfies and act like an idiot. I mean, it's the same
Right.
kind of a thing. You're sort of going in there with certain expectations. And, I mean, in my opinion, the film really does deliver it. And I've always said that it was probably one of the best films I never want to see again.
Yeah.
And I've seen it once, and I've seen it, and I don't really want to have to go through that again. So
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, I never want to not be affected by it, which is one of the reasons I don't watch it very often, is I don't want to get used to it.
That's a good way to put it.
So so let's talk a little bit about
the movie we're here to talk about.
that we're here to talk about, Jaws, which is kind of like the absolute like different kind of spectrum right there. It is a popcorn movie,
Oh, yeah, it's the popcorn movie.
It's the one that started it all, pretty much, like in a
Unfortunately.
way. Like, it's the well, I guess we can get into people's opinion on that, but I absolutely like. I remember, and I guess we'll start off talking about our first memories on Jaws. Like, do you guys remember the first time that you saw Jaws, and Like how did you feel after watching that film? And where did you watch it? Paul, I guess we'll start with you.
All right, so it came out in 1975, so I would have been, I guess it was like 9 years old. I didn't see it when it came out, but back then you could still see a movie come out again in the drive-in, and that's kind of when I saw it. I saw it when I was about 12 years old in a drive-in, so it wasn't the first time, the first run. It came out later on again, and of course scared the living shit out of me. And it was probably the second scariest thing I had seen at that point in my life. The first of which being another film that I'd seen as around the same age, which was Night of the Living Dead. So I went from Night of the Living Dead to Jaws, and you guys wonder why I'm so freaking weird at this point in my life. Yeah, I was 12 years old.
All right. Okay. Joe, what about you?
My first time being in the theater was I was like probably about 4, and I was my parents took me to see it, and I sort of remember sort of a vagueness of being there, but not necessarily watching it so much. So I'd say after that, I mean, seeing it on TV and video all those different years, and then recently seeing it at the drive-in to celebrate the anniversary of it, and now Blu-ray. It's just, but yeah, probably about 4. So that'd be what, 76, 75, that area. Yeah.
All right. What about you, Alfred?
I'm going to take a little circuitous route here. We were living in Germany when it came out, so I was like 3 or 4, and it came over to Europe about a year after the theatrical release in the States, because things were slower back then. So we didn't go see it because one of my friends, my dad says, "Well, your friend blew his lunch in the theater, so we're not going to go see it." So I was like, okay. So I did not see the movie as a whole until 1996 on VHS. It was like the 20th anniversary VHS widescreen tape. So I watched that and I was like, how the hell did I go without watching this movie? Because I mean, I've watched 1940. It's referenced in so many movies, like 1941, the Spielberg movie. And then I got the opportunity to see it in Williamsburg at the Movie Tavern when they brought it back for Retro Movie Wednesdays.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
That was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that actually. I took my dad to see that. It was like during Father's Day.
And it's definitely a movie experience.
Definitely. Hey, Tom, what about you?
I did see it. I actually saw it on vacation. We went to Virginia Beach.
Oh,
I remember I was about 12, 13 years old. My parents were like, "Hey, there's a beach movie. We should go see that while we're here at Virginia Beach." So I went in and I saw Jaws at 12 or 13 years old. And we were there for 7 days, and I would not swim. I would not put my toe in the ocean. I went 2 years without swimming in the ocean after seeing it because it had such an effect on me. Actually, when I was at the beach, they saw a fin, go through, and the lifeguard got so excited that he drove his Jeep into the surf and got caught in the surf and started floating out. And I was like, I'm out of here. I'm gone, because it really was a shark, and this guy panicked and just drove his car. It's back when you could drive cars out onto the beach. You could actually drive onto the sand.
oh wow, yeah.
So the surf's coming in, going under the wheels of our Mercury car at the time, and this lifeguard is floating out. And I thought, you know what? Jaws has gotten under my skin at this point, and it took quite a while for me to dip my toe back in the ocean. Such was the psychological effect of Jaws, and just it was a different way. I mean, gosh, this year I miss summer movies. Just not having them make you realize that it's such a great genre to have, and it is the great grandfather of all of them. It's a smart film. It's actually 3 movies. It's a buddy film with all the guys getting together. It's an action film about hunting the shark, and it's a horror movie. And it blends all of those so beautifully that it stayed with me for the rest of my life, because it was such a virtuoso film, and you find new things in it. You wouldn't think a film about 3 guys hunting a rubber shark would be one that we talk about this long, but it's because we care about the characters we care about the interaction and they texture them. You feel the deaths, but it's also about the idiocy which we're facing now, which is the mayor saying there's commercial considerations rather than safety considerations. Business is important. We gotta, sell. You gotta sell stuff, or the town's going to be in trouble. And it still resonates to this day. It's such a great film.
Right, and I think the other thing too, at least from the horror aspect, I remember seeing it, and I remember thinking even back then, the shark was kind of scary, but it really, seeing it and seeing what was going on wasn't the thing for me. The thing for me was later, because like yourself, I grew up going to the beach constantly during the summer as a kid, and before that film, I had no problem. I couldn't wait to get on the beach. I would jump right into the surf, no problem. After that film, I thought twice, and for a good long time after that, and it's mainly because, as everybody who ever goes to the beach knows, unless you're going to like the Mediterranean, you go in the water and you cannot see.
That's
you
right.
have no idea what's there. And
That's right.
because we've seen this film and this monster that's been put there, and we've seen what it can do, now that's been implanted in everybody's subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
We all remember it, and because we have no idea, we're going into a world we can't see, we have no control over, it's their world, it makes us react in a way that's something that's probably been ingrained with us since we've evolved from lesser beings,
Yeah.
and to survive.
Well
Yeah.
put.
I think it's kind of funny when you mention that, Paul. It's Tom as well. I to this day I still don't really like to swim, so I really don't go out in the water, and it's probably some sort of ingrained belief that hit me in my childhood of no,
Right.
and I think that probably there is some sort of subconscious element to that to me.
Yeah. The very
One
best
movie
horror.
that got me to not go in the water is The Bay, where it's movie the arthropods are going eating people. It's like it's a real, like it's like one of those found footage fake documentaries, and it's like when I saw that I was like, man, I fucked the water.
Yeah. Well, the best horror, I think we all agree, is the one that plausibly deep down on a primal level we feel like it could happen.
Right.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing that we talk about a little bit on this is like the idea that you can't see what's happening. And there's the big idea for a long time, like, there's that whole documentary, the shark wasn't working, and everything that the whole point was, like, for a long time he had, Spielberg had to actually use techniques to scare you without actually showing you the shark half the time.
Yeah.
I saw a movie, and I think, and I'm not going to mention what the movie's called or whatever, because it's a really bad movie, and I just don't want to call it out.
Jaws 4?
No, but that is one. But no, there's a really bad movie that was an independent film, and the problem with it was they didn't have the monster in the sea or whatever, and they could not do it as well as Spielberg could, like, without seeing the monster, and you never see the monster in this movie, and it really, it really pissed me off, because, like, at least Jaws has the monster, shows the monster when it needs to, basically.
Right.
When it could work, you saw the monster. Though, watching it on Blu-ray on high definition, the shark really looks so fake. I don't know what it is about, like, on VHS or on TV or film, that it looked a lot better. But on HD, where you get all the, like, sharpness of it, you can definitely tell it's a rubber shark, like, opening up its.
I think it was kind of like that from the beginning, and at least for me, this will kind of explain maybe how effective the film was for me. I went into this film already knowing at 12 years old that shark attacks were rare. My brother was super into sharks. He had tons of shark books. I read all about sharks and shark attacks before I even saw that film. So I knew that a film about this was going to be overblown, that Peter Benchley wrote this thing, that he was basically making a monster out of something that really wasn't, because very, very rarely do we have fatal shark attacks, and for the most part, they're usually accidental. These sharks don't hunt human beings. That's just not what they do. So I already knew this as a kid going in to see this film. and it didn't matter. It made no difference. The film was so effective, partially because of the way the actors, they lulled you into this state of just being able to accept everything because everything was very naturalistic and realistic. And again, the whole idea of being afraid of what you can't see and the fear of the unknown. It was just a very, very effective combination. And I got to say, that was probably the soundtrack of the age. I mean, that's the movie that really established another level for use of music. And it was just absolutely fabulous. Perfectly done.
John Williams' score is amazing. And if I can build on Paul's idea, I think something that I find, as somebody that makes movies, is great artists like that work best. All art has to have a frame. This is a movie about the triumph of limitations. And the fact that the shark didn't work, the fact that, they were getting sick on the water, all these factors brought out the best in Spielberg and the best in the performance and the best in the film, because without that frame, you would start to get the excesses or the easy fixes. It's now it's CG and now it's all these different things, but putting a frame around it and saying, no, you have limitations. The shark doesn't work. It doesn't look great. You're stuck on a boat. You have very limited budget. That is the absolute triumph of a great filmmaker. And the reason Jaws is good is because there's a very tight and limiting frame around that, and he has to work within it. He has to be inventive within that frame. He has to figure out ways. I mean, the best scare in the whole thing for me is that head, the way it bumps up and bumps into frame. You jump every time. In fact, I watch people like this watching it so that I watch them jump, because it works. The way he's set it up, the way he's framed it psychologically, the whole film is psychological warfare. And it's initiated by Spielberg so brilliantly that it's like an indie film that happened to be released as a summer film that became a blockbuster. And seeing him sort of held down by all these limitations created this sort of pressure cooker of a film that all these inventive ideas burst out of it, and it ended up being a much better film for it.
Right, and let's not forget the fact that the unbelievable tension that happens throughout the film was aided by the fact that Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss hated each other, and there was conflict throughout the entire picture.
They almost came to blows.
All of these things could have sunk any other production, but instead Spielberg was somehow able to sort of do a perfect storm and utilize all these other things, like you're saying, with the shark not working, with cast members conflicting each other all the time, and able to utilize all of that in a way to make the film work and to use them as pluses instead of minuses.
I think that's hilarious because I didn't even know that. I did not know that Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss did each other. So now every time I see it, it's gonna make total sense, because like when I was rewatching it, I was like, wow, these guys like really don't like each other. But I thought that was just them acting.
It's the acting augmented by reality. But here again, we have a horror movie, an action movie, and a buddy movie that actually takes the time to sit down, have them sing sea shanties together, has them compare wounds, makes you humanize a character that at first could have been just a cardboard cutout, but we actually feel for Quint by the end of it. We actually feel, Martin being the kind of, he's the entry point, the fish out of water. You feel for Matt, because Spielberg has the confidence to slow the thing down and let us spend a little bit of time with them, but have grace notes that you would be like, how did that end up in the movie? Like, how did he allow it? It feels like they're putting little filigrees on it, but it actually makes you care about them so much more, that had it just been plot, just been moving forward, and the character the story hadn't happened inside of them, we wouldn't be talking about this movie.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, because I feel like that's the thing with this movie is like, it's like you said, it's a perfect storm of everything together. And I think Steven Spielberg did a wonderful job. Now, my big question about it is, what makes this movie like the movie that started the summer? Like, I mean, I don't know. It was before Star Wars, so this was the movie that, like, all of a sudden there's blockbusters, people lined around the block. What was it about this movie, like, necessarily that entranced people, other than maybe another movie that was coming out in 1975?
Well, I think that this was really the perfect timing, because they had big blockbuster, big movies before. I mean, The Godfather brought in all kinds of people, but it didn't really coincide with the summer, and it didn't really coincide with a summer movie in the summer. So again, it was one of those perfect storms. Things just kind of lined up, and once the studios saw the kind of money that they could make, because previously they were just kind of dumping their lesser movies during the summer, thinking people aren't going to go to see movies in the summer. They're going to the beaches, they're going to parks, they're doing other stuff. Now they say, oh, we can make quite a lot of money. It's the opposite of what we always thought. This is the whole new way for us to make all kinds of money. And of course, the problem with that is that, Jaws was one of the first ones to do this, and it was really, really good. But subsequent films have, they just have not carried the water that Jaws has. And now we're in a situation where they're mostly crappy, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, one of the things you're saying about how was it coming out in the summer, I was watching one of the documentaries on it, and it was originally supposed to come out like around Christmas, but with all the delays and all the issues that they have with the quote-unquote it being called flaws and all the problems they had in the production, blowing the budget by twice, it's still relatively inexpensive film considering that it's sort of all these limitations that they faced and all these issues they faced making it, which we just talked about, and then all these delays that happened, and it just sort of set it right up in place for the perfect setup for it to be a summer, the summer blockbuster.
Right, and I'm not even sure that if it had been released in Christmas, that Jaws would have had quite the same impact. I think that its release in the summer was perfectly timed.
Yeah, because that's when people are going out in warm weather.
Right, they were there, in the beaches, in the water.
Well, it's funny because Jaws: The Revenge, which does take place during Christmas time or whatever, still came out during the summer. Because they're not gonna put these movies out in the freaking in Christmas time. This is not a Christmas movie, but I guess that was the first time that they decided like the summer was. I mean, and it makes sense because, not just because it's a summer movie, but because it is a movie that, kids are out, of school. Parents have nothing else to do but take kids to movies or something to just get them out of their hair. So, and this was a PG movie, which technically today would be PG-13, I think.
I guess after a little bit of cuts or whatever, because didn't they have to cut it because of the leg scene? Yeah, because originally it was rated R. It would have been R, but cut. I think another thing with it being in the summertime, if you think of it in a TV sense, a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, they go into hiatus for all those years in the summer because summer is usually traveling time, and it's not meant to be consuming electronic entertainment and stuff like that type of thing, but this definitely changed that.
I may go out on a limb here, but 1975 is Vietnam just ended. We just had the Nixon presidency where he resigned. A lot of turmoil in the nation. I don't know if the gas stuff started yet, but people needed an escape, and I think this movie gave it to them because it was something so far from reality. I mean, it's something they could relate to because it's small town stuff. It's something different. It's a quest. It gets them out of themselves for a bit. And it was something that has rewatch value that you could go back to. It's not like you're going to see The Godfather 15 times in the theater, but when Star Wars and that came out, I mean, I'm sure people want repeat viewings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's funny is I forget what it was. I don't know if it was House Shark or there was another movie I saw, but they basically utilized the one teenage girl who's in, she has that famous scene where she's on the beach. She goes, "It's a shark! It's a shark!" And they paying her to be in their movie saying the same thing. And for years, I always wondered whatever happened to that actress. And it was like kind of a cool thing. And it's nice that she's been immortalized forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that scene was because it was in the shark was in the pond, right? Originally, the shark goes into the pond, and I'd always wondered about that because I'd always as a kid I never knew that the ocean goes into a pond, or whatever, but would that shark technically do that? Probably not. The shark would probably just keep going the way it was going, what I mean? Because, literally, the shark was attacking everybody there instead of, what a normal shark would do.
Oh, yeah. No, this shark exhibits zero behaviors of a regular shark.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about, though.
Yeah, it's about, it's a slasher. with a shark, in a way. Like but it's also
Yeah, it's a monster movie.
it's a monster movie, but
Right.
with character development. I mean, you look
So
at
that's
Roy.
the difference. That's what elevated it.
Yeah, it was. If you look at it, like no other shark movie, even Deep Blue Sea or any of the ones like the Meg, the ones that are trying to be a real shark movie, not Sharknado or House Shark
Sharktopus.
or Sharktopus. None of those count really, and those are all just kind of. I think they're like mock, movies or whatever for this. But like
They're deconstructionists. They're too much of a wink,
right,
to the whole genre.
It's like
This movie believed itself. This was a movie that acted like it was a drama, that was an action film, it was a horror movie, and a buddy film. And look at the caliber of the actors they got. From Richard Dreyfuss to Roy Scheider's one of my favorites from the 70s. The guy's utterly believable in whatever he plays. And then they got Robert Shaw, who drunk can deliver lines better than anyone.
And he was drunk on set more than a few times, as I recall.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic. He is fantastic in it, and sympathetic and uncompromised. And the great thing about this film is when we watch it, as kids, we love it on one level. As teenagers, we love it. But as adults, we also can deep dive into it because it's primal. It's a summer movie about going on summer vacation that is as universal as Moby Dick and any country where people go on vacation and can be put in jeopardy in the water. This movie taps that. And no movie had tapped it like that before.
I really like where you're going with that, because when I saw it as a kid, it was like always in teenage and stuff like that. It was always more about the second half, even more so because it was like all the action and stuff like that. But now it's like watching it for the politics of the story going on, or just the character development, or the stuff around the town. I mean, it's almost like I enjoy the first half even more.
Right. And as a matter of fact, I was going to say one of my favorite scenes is a scene that I liked, but as I've gotten older, I really, really love even more. Do you remember the one boy who gets killed, and then the mother shows up in black and accuses him of not caring and slaps him? That's not a scene you ever see in the movies, and the fact that they did that and they made you sit there and experience the shame and suffering that character had to go through, that was fabulous. That was absolutely fabulous, and you don't see that anymore.
The response was perfect too, because he said, the mayor said, she didn't mean that, and Scheider was like, yeah, she did, basically, and it's because it's true.
Well,
that's real.
Well, no, and he also, you could feel that guilt and that shame that he had, that he was trying his hardest to, even including on the boat that he was on or whatever, with the mayor and the what is it, the autopsy guy, the medical examiner, all of them talking, and he said, we need to shut this down. Like this.
Right, he told them.
Yeah, he told them from the very beginning, and they would not listen to him. He had no power, right? So after he got hit by the woman, and after they let that one last, and his kid gets attacked, that's when you can see he gets his power at that point. He knows he has the upper hand now to the mayor, and he can tell him, like, look, we're closing these beaches down, and we're going to go hunt this shark, and we're going to fucking find it, and we're going to stop it from terrorizing this thing again, because you're going to pay everybody to do this and get this done. And I was like, I saw, like, you could see a character go from this meek kind of like, I'm new to the area, I don't want to get fired, I don't want to push any buttons, to somebody who was tough and extremely, like, he faced his fear of, like, the water. I mean, there's a lot of and excuse my pun, but there's a lot of depth in this.
Right. And he wanted to get out. He was originally from New York City. He wanted to get out of that pressure cooker situation and go into a small town where nothing supposedly happens and have a lot more of a relaxing career. and he wasn't, bargaining for this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and again, early Spielbergism, if you noticed, suburban life and inside the houses look lived in. They don't look set designed. There's clothes draped everywhere. There's clutter. When you see their bedroom, it looks like it really is lived in, just like he did in Close Encounters, just like he did in E.T. He's used a very realistic setting for when Brody is talking to his wife about what Paul was just saying about, look, I've just moved here and I want to have an easy time. You believe that he lives in that space. Spielberg makes you feel all the spaces that they're in the movie, and I think that's brilliant. And actually, Mayor Larry is one of my favorite characters in that movie.
Well, I'll say this. I really like your point, because the reason I bring that up is because one of my favorite little things I always remember about E.T., and it's such a small thing, but like it's such a big thing, I guess, in a way, is that Dee Wallace is walking around picking up clothes after her kids or something in one of the scenes. And that's just so normal, but like you don't see stuff like that in movies anymore. Like you don't see it. And it's like in this one, she, there's a scene where they're going out, he gets that call, he has to leave, and she goes and she like rides the she rides the mother rides the I don't know what that ride is called or whatever, the seesaw or whatever thing with the kid, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is just normal behavior and everything.
Right.
But it seems really like stuff you don't see it these days.
Right. It helps set and establish the verisimilitude that's going to carry the film. And I know you always make fun of me because I always, pay attention to the background and I start calling stuff out. If things look phony, I'm always the first one to say, hey, shenanigans here, that doesn't look right. But details really do matter. And everything that's in that frame is extremely important. You have to really look at it that way. And that's why I always love Stanley Kubrick, because he is the master of utilizing every single thing in that frame to use in whatever he's trying to establish for his film.
Yeah,
I think you can relate to these characters, like in John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean, there's no someone popping out with jokes all the time with comic relief outside something a normal person would say. And you can relate to people like that. You can relate to the people on the ship going after Jaws. I mean, there wasn't these people that were transcending reality. They were like people you could run into on the street.
That's true. Good point.
Definitely.
And one thing I wanted to mention about with space is there's that amazing scene where Mayor Larry takes them out on that platform and he's explaining the situation in the town. And behind him, you see the actual town and the people just cycling in a single shot. Spielberg holds on them talking, all the main characters kind of talking in a row, but you're on a platform that just escorts you through the geography of the place. You feel that you're in the place. And in typical Spielberg form, you cannot imagine that movie being shot from any other angle. There wasn't like coverage all over the place from all different angles. He's like, that's it. That's the angle. That's the shot we're going to do. And that's his real strength, is he takes a kind of indie energy in that thing and makes it from a trick shot, like using the focus dolly move, which became iconic, but the little subtle things, like he'll do a oneer and create tension because somebody's talking on a phone, but they're overlapping talking to someone behind it, and you get tense because you're like, I'm trying to listen to what he's saying on the phone and someone else is saying something important behind him, and he'll overlap it, but he doesn't cut away to them. He leaves it in that master, and he makes you shift your focus between people, which makes you anxious on a subconscious level.
Like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when they're doing the air traffic control part.
Yes.
It's
great example. Great example. Well, you feel psychologically disoriented. You feel like you're processing a lot of information, but that's just Spielberg confidently saying, I'm going to show you this slice. This is all you need to see, and it's going to make you tense.
Yeah,
I just love how you know everything there is to know about Mayor Larry just by the way he looks and dresses.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Elementary, dear Holmes.
Everything. Yeah. What is it, a seersucker suit? Yeah, it's like a seersucker suit. He's a great character. I love Mayor Larry. And I would make an argument this is the story of Mayor Larry learning how wrong he is.
Well, he's that Mayor Leisure Suit Larry.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
What were you saying, Joe?
I was going to say the sequence where the three of them are talking underneath a billboard. and they have the camera. It's kind of low, and it like looks up at him, and it just goes back and forth between the characters, and it doesn't change angles. But yet, and the one fades out into the background for part of it when Dreyfuss is about ready, like I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm leaving, so like that, and just the interaction and the spacing that he had in that scene, that shot is just absolute perfection.
It's masterful blocking. The blocking. Absolutely. In that movie, there are oneers in there where you're just virtuoso. You don't even notice it, but you realize you've seen a close-up, a wide, you've known who to look at, and there hasn't been a single cut.
I love the scene where Roy Scheider's on the beach, and it goes from the beach to him. That is just like fantastic.
The world dropping away from him, that feeling caught in that shot, you know exactly how he feels.
Well, it's so funny because that was Vertigo. That was
Hitchcock.
And he, Steven Spielberg, must have, absolutely adored Hitchcock, or whatever.
Definitely.
So, most people, filmmakers, look up to Hitchcock. But yeah, Spielberg does such a great job with that. That scene right there on the beach. And did you guys ever catch the irony of everything that he even points out in the movie is like, why would a guy who's afraid of the island, right, or afraid of the water, like be the sheriff of an island, like it makes no sense. Like it really, the irony of it all, it is part of, like I said before, is part of him facing his fear. His fear is the ocean.
Yeah, doesn't Scheider say something like, it's only an island from if you're looking out in the water or something like that. He makes a comment about that from the land, which is kind of funny because it plays into your point there.
Yeah, no, right, and even Roy Scheider, and Richard Dreyfuss says, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense," which is like the point that they're trying to make in this movie is that like it doesn't kind of make any sense, but it happens. This is a truthful thing. Like there's gonna be who's gonna be the best sheriff for the town. He doesn't need to go into the water to be the sheriff of a beach town.
Right. And it's really, really strikes me how, all of this, all of these things that we're talking about elevates this film to the level that it is. Because I don't know, there weren't a whole lot of directors out there that could have done that with this film. And you go and you look at all the follow-up films, and because they don't have Spielberg, they are all flat. They're mediocre at best, and they just get worse and worse as times go on because they just don't have a capable director in the same level.
Or writer, because if you think about it, would Mayor Larry make the same mistake twice like that? I don't think so. I'm sorry. I think he seemed to have learned. Like I felt like Jaws 2 was a kick in the ass for like a kick in the nuts to Larry. Like poor guy, man. Like come on, this should have been a new
Jaws 2, a kick in the nuts to Larry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As a standalone, this is better. If you just know of Jaws and no other, it makes for a much better movie. Because unfortunately, without like Paul was saying, without an auteur's hand, it is simply a genre film, and it can quickly not decide what it wants to be. In fact, the worst thing that can happen is to get a really great shark and film just a really great shark, because that's only going to work for 5 minutes. And if you don't care about everyone, if you don't have that scene of them around the table on the ship and them knowing each other and talking to each other, and there's kind of nuanced performances, it's nothing. It's too straightforward a genre film without it. What he did is he layered other things underneath it.
And he was patient. He didn't stuff the film with, people, victim after victim after victim getting torn apart. You don't need that. You need, a couple, but you need to allow the natural tension for those kind of shocks for the audience to build up on, instead of just keep piling more and more bodies.
Well, that goes into the idea of the 70s / into the 80s. 80s, they really wanted a body count for films and everything. And 70s, if you look at what were the horror movies of the 70s, were like stuff like Rosemary's Baby, right? Like I think Rosemary's Baby was 70. Yeah, Halloween. Halloween had a good amount of body count, but like I think that was
did not have a high.
It didn't have a huge one.
It was less than 10.
It feels like it had a lot because in the second half of Halloween is when everybody gets schwacked. But in the first half, it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, it was about tension.
It was about tension. So, John Carpenter probably learned a lot from Jaws, in a way.
Right, and that's the biggest difference between now and then is that now you try to make a film with tension, and nobody in Hollywood wants to see it. They go, the audience all has ADHD. They can't sit for 30 seconds without being distracted by their phones.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to want to pay attention. And I'm of course saying no, that's completely wrong. We want better, more adult oriented films. We don't want just body counts.
And plot over
effects.
effects.
Again, goes back to that frame. The fact that visual effects have accelerated and digital technology has unfortunately allowed you to do anything, which is not a good thing, because you need that restriction. You need that discipline put on you, because the greatest works are created under duress.
Well, so I want to point this out. Now, this doesn't have to do with Jaws, but it does have to do with Jaws. So there's a the show Dawson's Creek or whatever had a bit. I don't know if it was written by Kevin Williamson at the, or whatever. Maybe that line, or one of the lines was or something. But they were talking in a class, like a film class kind of thing, right? And they were talking about Hitchcock, right? How he filled the, in like Psycho or something, how he fills the screen with like you don't know what's going to come, right? Every frame was perfectly shot. And he was talking about Halloween. Halloween was the same way, so that goes to Jaws as well, of what you guys are saying before, is like they all take it from like Hitchcock, I guess, because everything comes to the point of like every scene has something to do with, like you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to look at the whole frame and everything.
Well, I think a lot of your best directors are like that. Like I said, Kubrick is like that. Akira Kurosawa is like that. There are a number, Bergman's like that. There are a number of really, really excellent directors who are able to do that with their films and take the time and pay attention to the details, because details do matter, and ground their films in verisimilitude so that you're buying it. So it's not just a throwaway popcorn film that's going to just rely on jump scares and gore and body counts. Now,
was Jaws ever on Laserdisc? I want to say it was on Criterion for Laserdisc.
It was on Criterion.
I think so, because I might be wrong, but I
don't know that it was Criterion, but I do know.
I don't think so.
It was on Laserdisc.
Well, because Ghostbusters was on fucking Criterion Laserdisc, so I'm like thinking Jaws might have been. Like, if it wasn't, it should have been. Because I guess Universal owns it, so they probably wouldn't want to give it to another company.
They're very rare to license their titles out. I know they had Close Encounters on Criterion.
Right.
But I'm not sure it was. I might be wrong.
I think it was.
Yeah, I know there was a great there was an anniversary version that came out that had new commentary that was fantastic.
For Close Encounters?
No, for Jaws.
I don't know any place that has commentary, because I freaking I want to hear that.
I have a disc somewhere there was some commentary. I'll have to see what it was, but it came out. It was like a 1-year issue of it, and I picked it up. This is Laserdisc. I'd have to see where it is. I don't have my Laserdisc player anymore.
I want a Laserdisc player. I don't have
mine.
Yeah. So I don't have the Blu-ray of it. Joe, did you say you had a Blu-ray of it? Is there commentary?
I didn't see the commentary on it. I haven't gone through all the extras that's on there, because there's like two-hour documentaries on this one. I believe this is it's part of a Spielberg Blu-ray collection. Yeah. So I think it's the same transfer that was on the regular Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really anything extra put on it than that, but maybe there's something on the 4K or something. But I'm interested in watching
the new one.
I'm still interested to watch some of these documentaries on this one, because they do some different stuff on this documentary, including like going to a lot of the set visits and stuff like that, which holds a sort of a special place with me, because 5 years ago, my wife and we were on vacation up in Massachusetts, and she's like, well, where you want to go? I want to go to Martha's Vineyard. And I was like, well, Martha's Vineyard. I was like, wait a second, that's where they filmed Jaws. And she's like, yeah. She's like, are you interested in going? I was like, oh yeah. So walking the streets, and a lot of it, I mean, actually going to the pier where they did the boat scene and stuff like that, and walking Jaws Bridge, and going to where the billboard was, the water, the lighthouse, and seeing also walking the town right where Brody walked and stuff like that. It's just that it looks, a lot of it looks the same, and they really kept that small old school image with it.
Was there a shark attack while you were there? Damn.
3 o'clock every day. 3 o'clock every day.
But
what has it been, like 45 years?
Yeah.
Since that movie came out? I mean, and then you think about just about everybody who was involved with it, aside from Steven Spielberg, has passed away, other than Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's true. And John Williams.
Yeah.
John Williams as well.
Scheider, Robert Shaw, Murray Hamilton, Peter Benchley.
The lady who played Mrs. Kidner just passed away in the past year.
Lorraine Gray.
She's passed away.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think this is notable too in that Spielberg Williams collaboration of finding leitmotifs and things that the shark had its own voice in the music soundtrack. The soundtrack itself was part of the script. It was part of the emotional script to the film, and I feel like there's the Shark Cage Fugue track I still listen to. It's such a great piece of music, and it really kind of solidified that Spielberg sound. You can hear echoes of that in Close Encounters and E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark. There is a nice quality to the fact that instead of being a contemporary, instead of like wow electric guitars for 1975, it was a full orchestral score,
right,
which has made it not get dated. It's not aged that way. You can enjoy the score now, and it doesn't feel of its time, if that makes sense.
Right, and it was a $9 million picture for 1975. That was pretty substantial back then.
Yeah, it was only supposed to be like half of that originally, wasn't it? Because it's like it blew the budget, supposedly.
Yeah, they did. They unfortunately did blow the budget. Yeah.
But they ended up making like $480 million after that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. It's groundbreaking too because it didn't have young, beautiful people in it. That was also
just that they got eaten.
Yeah, they had normal people like Roy Scheider, like guys like me were in movies back then. You could have George Kennedy be in a movie.
Yeah.
You could have all these people. I didn't have young, attractive people being the lead in the film, and what a great groundbreaking film, because then they were morally complicated people, but they weren't pretty people. And I love that about the movie. That was really different back then.
Right. It's just, you're flashing back to Robert Altman's The Player, which we talked about before, where they're trying to shove Julia Roberts into absolutely everything.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you wouldn't believe her as that, Quint character for a second,
Right.
Well, I love that there weren't young, attractive people, and they were morally complicated, and the stakes of it, the world wasn't going to be destroyed. Yeah. It was a very simple, passionate story.
Well, the people that they showed, and the people that they showed there, that was real, because it's like when I walked around the streets there, going into that the convenience store where he got the paint and all that stuff, seeing people there, it looked just like people from the movie. I mean, it was real.
Yes.
I mean, it was there wasn't going to be any big Hollywood celebrities walking up to me.
It's like
there.
Colonial Williamsburg. They said dress up in the 70s. Colonial.
Yeah.
I would go there. I would go see a 70s a place where everybody's dressed up like that, freaking bell bottoms and other shit. That'd be fun, But I mean, it seemed like, you're right. Like, I don't know. Every time I watch that movie, I do notice the mayor's the suit and everything, but I don't really notice much else of what people wore. Like, I've never been that way as a person of like noticing, remembering like what people wear or whatever. But I do remember that blue suit because that's just,
absolutely.
Because every mayor has to look like that.
It was grown-ups, and it was guys like us, and they were morally complex, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with making a movie that's accessible, that's a big hit, that isn't predicated on young, attractive people. They weren't all 22 years old, but surf experts or whatever. They were real, lived-in people. And though we've gotten away from that to a certain extent, there's, the ageism or whatever, or looks, the movie, nobody goes, I would have loved that film if only Robert Redford had been in it, or only this person had been in it. And there's something to be said about a movie like that. that it was groundbreaking because the story was more important than the effects, and the people could be real and lived in a story that was, let's face it, very accessible, very primal, but hugely complex. You could talk about Quint all day. Like, what was his deal? You know, how did he redeem himself? Why? What happened to him?
And it was appropriate for its period as well. I mean, really go back and you read some of the interesting research about shark attacks, and you find out that some of the worst attacks happened on the East Coast around New Jersey at the turn of the previous century. You know, if you want to make a really good realistic film, you could go back and set it in like 1902, 1903. But it would not have worked nearly as well as it would have set in the 70s when the film was shot. Because can you just imagine like the opening shot of the woman getting killed, but she's in like ankle length bloomers? It just wouldn't have worked,
Yeah.
Okay.
And the expense would have been prohibitive to do a period.
Oh yeah,
Tom, I liked it when you talked about Quint's character. I saw some deleted scenes last night that I had not seen before of Quint's character when he arrived at Amity. Because the first time they show him in the movie is when he's in the board meeting, basically. But in the cut scenes, it shows him arrive, and it shows the logo on the outside of his truck or Jeep, and it shows the guy that's working with them. And then there's another scene or two that they cut where he's arguing with that guy who and the guy quits. The guy quits on him. He's the guy who hands Quint the stuff on the boat. But there's a short guy that walks with him, and he walked with him out of the board meeting as well. But they cut the scenes, but it was nice seeing those scenes, what they meant. But in the scope of the film, I'm glad they didn't include it, because where they brought him in and where they carried his character was perfect for what it was.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Okay, so I want to bring this up. This is something that I just looked up on IMDb. It says in the trivia. Although director Steven Spielberg wanted Charlton Heston to play Brody, the main reason he decided against Heston was because of his saving the day role in his previous movies, Airport 1975 and Earthquake in 1974. Spielberg reasoned that if Heston would have been cast, it signifies to the audience that the shark has virtually no chance against the hero. And that was the beauty of that movie, is like, you really did not know if Brody was going to live. Like, it could have ended where the shark won. And you know what? It wouldn't have been a worse movie at all, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been appropriate as Brody. You might maybe have gotten away with it for him playing Quint, although it's hard to see. It's hard to see anybody but Robert Shaw playing him, but not. I couldn't see him as Brody. It just wouldn't.
No, not Brody, but definitely Quint. I think I saw him do Long John Silver later in his career. Fraser Heston directed it, his son, and he was fantastic in it. Chuck Heston gets a lot of crap, but that guy did himself really well. And,
he was a good actor.
He was a terrific actor, and he would add a gravitas and feeling to his characters that you wanted to follow him. And I see why Steven didn't cast him, because you're right. You'd be like, well, Chuck has to live. But he pulled a cool thing on us all, which is it's the story of all three men, and you don't know which of the three is going to make it. Is it going to be Dreyfuss? Is it going to be Roy Scheider? Is it going to be Quint? You can't tell, because no one person is elevated above the other. Each one is equally flawed. Each one has a moment, a brush with death, and you don't know in the end. And in fact, that's the beauty of the film, is most people have no idea who is going to survive it.
And of course, Spielberg sets up the way that it's going to kill the shark early on, and so subconsciously you've got in the back of your head that whole thing with the oxygen tank.
Yeah, it's a great setup, and you don't know which character is going to do it or if they're going to do it in
Actually,
time.
I mean, to this day, except for the fact that I've seen the movie a million times. I still when I watched it recently to get ready for this, I was like, oh wow, I pick up little things, obviously. And the thing that I should have picked up from the very beginning is when they're tying the the oxygen tanks, and then they fall, right? And then they catch the oxygen tanks, and they're like, don't, be careful with these things. They can, they can explode. And, basically Richard Dreyfuss telling him that, calling him an idiot for almost, destroying the whole boat. you did, that is a great setup because I never saw it coming that that's what he was going to use until the ending of the movie where you see him go, the most famous line being "Smile, you son of a," and he never actually says it, but everybody always says "Smile, you son of a bitch." He never actually says bitch. He never actually says bitch.
Explosion is the implied bitch.
Yeah.
As it frequently is.
Exactly. Well, and also, what I think Paul was talking about the 70s versus now. One unfortunate thing is guys like us love looking at movies like this. They used to make movies that were contained. And now if this movie came out, there would be an eye to it being a franchise. There'd be an eye towards it. I don't think they would kill Quint. I think they would keep him alive for the next one. They would diffuse a lot of the finality of this movie, which made it so great. Mm-hmm. They would do that because they're not making a first movie. They're making an entrance into a larger tent, into a bigger franchise. It's like horror Jaws franchise. And I think that's why they got painted in the corner when they tried to do sequels, is because this one was so good and so final, you didn't need to do any other ones.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And I think they had to kill Quint in a way, because it's like when he bashes the radio on Brody, it showed the motivation that Quint's that's his life, is to catch the shark, or to kill
he's the Ahab character.
So that it's that or death.
There's no going back.
Yeah, so it's like, in my mind, he had to.
Yeah, I agree. But what I'm arguing is, if we made the movie now,
absolutely,
someone would try to talk me out of it.
It would be made with actors who are half their age at most, and there'd be a lot more females there. There'd be a lot more, gratuitous, sex and violence, and it would not work.
If I were
it's so hot out here. Let me take my top off.
Right.
If I were casting Jaws now, Robert Downey Jr. would probably be.
They'd say he's too old. They would cast some kid from Game of Thrones. It'd be like, he's British.
Well, no, I'm just saying, if I
Jon
could cast.
Snow.
Yeah, if you cast, sure.
If I could cast.
How would you cast it? Okay.
I would definitely cast Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
I would cast.
As Quint.
No. He would be Brody.
Okay, he'd be Brody.
Okay. Let's see. Who else? Somebody else say who the Richard Dreyfuss character would be. Let's cast this movie. Who would you cast?
Crispin Glover.
Oh, come on now. Let's be serious.
Come on.
It needs to be somebody who's has a neurotic presence, like Michael Cena. The kind of presence. It needs somebody who's kind of a nervous presence.
Yeah. Woody Allen.
Well, no, if he was more like, I'd cast Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen would be good. I like, I
like him in a serious role.
He's done serious roles.
He could do it because he has that kind of nervous, nebbishy energy.
Tell you who would be very interesting would be Daniel Day-Lewis.
As what? As which one?
Quint?
As Quint.
Yeah, now that I would watch.
That would definitely be good.
Yeah.
And I bet he would sign up.
You're right. He'd be fantastic in it. He would disappear into it.
Yeah. Problem is, nobody would want him to die. Just like you said. Nobody would want him to die.
Have to kill him.
Yeah, but Daniel Day-Lewis would insist on it, though. If it made sense in the story, he would insist on it.
Yeah. And who would you cast as Mayor Larry?
Oh, God.
Oh, gosh.
You got to have a great character actor for Mayor Larry.
Yeah.
Before that, I'd like to throw Josh Brolin in the hat for Quint.
Oh, yes.
Josh
Brolin's good.
He would be terrific because he has that kind of lived-in, gravelly. He'd be fantastic.
He would be. But I feel like, and
Tommy Lee Jones.
I hate saying this. I haven't seen Tommy Lee in forever.
He's a terrific actor.
He's a great actor, but I just
Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wise, you're just saying Tommy's right now.
And
he's coming out with his big shark movie, so
I know.
There you go.
Sure.
We should get back together after we all watch it and compare the two, because that would be a fascinating discussion.
Tom Hardy'd be a good Quint too.
Ooh, yeah, Tom Hardy actually.
Tom Hardy, yeah. I actually
Brody.
I started watching. I started watching. What is it? Billions, and Paul Giamatti might be a good Mayor Larry.
Paul Giamatti would be terrific as the mayor. You're right.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
could
'cause-
backpedal with the best of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see backpedaling and
Well-
justifying it, like, hang on here for a second, folks. Wait a second.
The other
Okay,
thing
have we thought about this?
do,
Yeah.
which is another Hollywood thing right now, is we could gender swap the whole thing and use female actors for everyone. That would be very interesting. Who would
Yeah.
you cast for that?
Oh God.
Sigourney Weaver is Quint.
Yes.
Yeah,
that would
okay,
be
good.
cool.
All right. I was gonna say not Brody because like that's too alien. You know, like already I'm like already
It'd have
thinking
to
about
be
that.
Quint.
Yeah, it'd have to be Quint. It'd have to be.
She'd have to be Quintette.
I could see her being very salty and unlikable, but then deep down she has a likability to her. She actually would be good in it.
Actually,
Charlize Theron is Brody.
yeah, she'd
Who?
be good.
Oh,
Charlize
Charlize
Theron.
Theron.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bingo.
Sigourney Weaver was really good. If you guys ever seen a movie called The TV Set that Jake Kasdan directed, she actually, it was supposed to be another actor. I don't know who it was, but it was supposed to be an actor who was playing her role, and then they ended up that person did it, and they're like, why does it have to be why does it have to be a male? Let's put Sigourney Weaver in it. And she was perfect. Like she played that role as if she were like
She means it. Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't a male, but she kind of played in the man's world. And I think she would have been perfect for that too. Charlize Theron, I don't know, there'd be a lot of great the fact is that it would have to be somebody who's the sheriff, female sheriff of the town, who could play that,
it needs to be
Yeah,
a
Noomi
woman with
Rapace
some
would be a good
bluster.
Richard Dreyfuss.
who?
Noomi
Or
Rapace.
the other one I was thinking, I can't remember her name, because I can't remember names of anymore, but the one who played Starbuck in the
Oh,
TV
yeah.
series Battlestar Galactica.
She'd be great as a
Oh,
was
Brody.
it
Katie
was that Linda Gray?
Sackhoff.
She's tough, man.
Are you talking about?
Katie
Are you talking
Sackhoff
about,
would
Brody.
be great.
are you talking about Gray? Was it Linda
Katie
Gray? Or?
Sackhoff.
Oh,
Yeah, Katie Sackhoff.
She plays
Sackhoff.
Starbuck. Yeah.
Mm.
She's got a lot of credibility.
Linda
Yeah.
Carter
Very
could play
good.
the mayor.
I can see that too.
See, we're showing our age, because if we're happening in Hollywood for real, they only be casting 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds.
Well, it wouldn't make sense
Yeah, but it
for.
wouldn't make any sense. How do you
Yeah.
have an oceanographer would be?
Oh, I completely agree, but they would still do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, I have to tell you guys a story. So I read this this whole long story, but the funniest thing about it is there was a writer who was writing a movie called The Biological Clock. It was about a woman's biological clock and everything. And this was back in the early '90s and everything. They're like, why not Winona Ryder? And they're like, she's in her 20s. Like, that wouldn't make any sense of why
That doesn't
she'd
make
be
any
worried
sense.
about her biological clock. Oh yeah, but we can get Winona Ryder for this movie. Why? Does it have to be
Okay.
about a biological clock? Like what? Like like after
People
that,
have
like
to die in Romeo and Juliet.
yeah, do
Yeah.
people does Romeo have to die?
Does
Like
he have to die?
Does my left foot have to actually be about his left foot? I mean, come
I
on.
mean,
Yeah.
why not his right foot? And still call it my
Isn't
left foot.
Amazing how much casting changes a movie, though. That like
Right.
a cast like that makes
Yeah.
it a near perfect movie.
Well, yeah,
When you hear
because,
about-
in the 70s, it was still, let's try and make this great movie because of this great story, and not, let's just try to make as much money as we can by, the story doesn't really matter. We're interested in putting butts in the seats and selling toys
Well,
and making money, and that's it.
Because back then that wasn't the plan.
Right.
That
Right.
wasn't their focus. Their focus was on. You look at movies like that in the '70s. Once again, like French Connection, which Roy Scheider was
movie.
brilliant in. But
Yeah,
like,
I was first in line for the Pop-Boy Doyle action figure.
exactly.
You didn't have the Popeye Doyle lunchbox? Come on.
I will
miss.
say-
Boy, do I miss Gene Hackman.
I-
Oh, I know.
I will
Gene
say,
Hackman's
though,
awesome.
I have a
Gene Hackman
sharp,
is a guy like us again, who was a huge movie star, but he was a real guy.
right.
Would make a great Quint.
He would.
He would have
So
made a great Quint.
I have a shark candle,
Nice.
with braces, and that
Is there a
commemorates
license plate
Jaws.
inside it?
Probably. I don't know. I can't. It won't let me dig down in there like they did.
Free
But
license plate with every purchase.
Keep digging down in there, Jonathan.
So I just want to say thank you guys because we kind of ran out of time, but this was amazing. This is a lot of great talk, and I feel like there's just a lot of we could have probably talked for hours.
Oh yeah, this
about
is one of those
Jaws.
films. Go on
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is
I hope anyone watching this, please rewatch the movie. Please, you're a different person as you watch it. As you grow older, you're going to enjoy it on a different level. Jaws is one of those movies that you always find some new nuggets, some new thing to enjoy. If by watching our enthusiasm for Jaws makes you want to check it out, then I feel great about that because it's a movie worth watching and it doesn't insult your intelligence.
exactly
Right. And this may not be like the great art film of all time. This is not Kurosawa. This isn't Ingmar Bergman. It doesn't matter. It's a popcorn film, but it's probably the best popcorn film they ever made.
I was gonna say
it's the original popcorn film.
yeah, and I was gonna say that and this coming from Paul. Paul is not a Steven Spielberg fan. Close Encounters and Close Encounters.
He's overrated.
And I see he does not like him, but he but there are a few movies of Steven Spielberg's, including Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Even you said Schindler's List is amazing. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the first one. It's just first in the
Minority Report.
Minority Report, which I just watched.
List.
Yeah.
Oh, this little movie, Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
1941.
No.
Come on, 1941.
Oh, come on, like Hook.
I think he's done all right. I'm proud of my boy. He's done all right. He's done a couple of hits.
Right, and he to go back to 1941, he does he pokes fun of himself in the Jaws opening.
And he's terrible at comedies and musicals. He knows
Yeah,
that. Back then,
he knows that.
Just wasn't very good at it, and knowing your limitations.
Hey, and
That's why I'm terrified by West Side Story.
And he's worked with Richard Dreyfuss 3 times,
Yeah, the two of them are surrogates. Didn't he meet Richard Dreyfuss through George? George had him in American Graffiti. That's how he met him.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Talk about a good room to be in with all those guys. That would be amazing.
Yeah, be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a terrific film. I'm so glad you chose this one.
Yeah.
And,
me too.
I loved hearing Joe's thoughts and Alfred's thoughts and Paul's thoughts. It's made me want to watch it again.
And I'll say this to all you guys anybody who likes it, go if you're ever up in the Northeast and have a chance to go to Martha's Vineyard and see the locations and walk. You get to go into the store.
That'd be
the
great.
same picket fences are still there. It's an experience upon itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we end, I like to do my thing of asking everybody what they're up to lately. Tom, tell us, what are you up to?
I just wrote a half-hour animated pilot, which we're pitching.
Nice.
I'm still shilling my feature Trouble Is My Business. I just actually put up a new trailer for it everywhere. It's available Blu-ray, DVD, and on all streaming platforms. I have another movie coming out called Noise in the Middle, which is a thriller set in the Northwest about a child with autism who is communicating with her dead mother. And it's an interesting film. So that comes out in the late fall.
Very cool.
All right. How about you, Alfred? What are you up to?
I'm working right now my podcast, Performance Enhancing Films. I'm doing that with Matt Cole from Push Comedy Theater in Norfolk. We interview comedians and sketch comedy people and artists on movies that inspired and influenced their performance. And we're coming up on our 20th episode. And that's on Libsyn. You can find Performance Enhancing Films. And I'm also doing a podcast or a YouTube show. It's called Who's First. We're going through Doctor Who from William Hartnell, first episode from 1963, and see how far we get. And my sketch comedy team, Charged Particles, where we're doing a series of sketch comedy during the quarantine, and now we're working on a version of Hollywood Squares called Neon Squares, and we're trying to recreate the magic of the show in our small community.
Nice.
Speaking of Hollywood, you've got the Hollywood Boulevard podcast that you do
that too.
Indie Film Cafe. So we really appreciate all the stuff we're doing. We just did Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and next month we're doing Dr. Sleep. So that'll be fun. And Joe, what have you been up to?
Working on a few of these podcasts, mainly with you and some with Paul. and looking forward to working on some projects with you, hopefully in the next year.
Yeah, Sick Flick
And
TV taking off.
hopefully we can get that going big.
Yeah. And what about you, Paul?
Podcasts. Lots of stuff going on. Forgotten Horror Classics is finally on hiatus. We wrapped up season 1 of that. And this September, we're going to be starting a new one with Rebecca Reinhardt. I guess I could give you the title. It's called Sexploitation Sleazecast. And we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of bad porn, bad nudie cuties, bad, weird, artsy sex films, and all kinds of just very strange, terrible, disturbing, and or failure type movies that just involve lots of weird sex. So that should be fun. And there's not a lot out there that sort of covers a lot of these kinds of films. So naturally, I'm ready for it because I already have tons of that stuff in my collection because I'm one of those weird kind of freaky people, I guess.
Great.
I'm glad you're prepared to fill that void.
Absolutely.
Well, at least
You're going to fill that gap, so to speak.
Yep. Going straight for it. Threw some flour in there, went right for it.
Yeah.
Right for it.
All right.
Bless you. Godspeed, John Glenn.
And we've got Indie Film Cafe we're still doing with Paul and I. We've got tons of stuff, but we are taking a break from a lot of other things too. So our basically a lot of these are wrapping up at the end of the season, toward like November-ish. And then they won't be back till March, a lot of stuff. So which will give us a little bit of a break because kind of need it right now. We've been burning the candles at both ends. And I've got a couple TV show pilots that I'm writing myself, as well as a bunch of like stuff that I'm doing, like a feature film I'm hoping to shoot in January. And we're also running a campaign in September for Sick Flick TV to raise money to make make content for Sick Flick TV. So
and to get content, we're looking at working some deals with other folks. So maybe they're looking for an avenue to get some of their content put out there. So we're trying to collect as much as we can. We want to be a sort of one-stop shopping kind of place for anybody who wants to see good content.
Yep, exactly. So we're just trying to get a lot of shit done. Like it's while we're stuck in quarantine, why not, right? Like that's kind of like a lot of times just getting things ready for hopefully next year not sucking, as bad as this year has kind of looked. Hopefully 2021 is. Hopefully 2020 is not a trailer for 2021.
Hopefully the mayor isn't going to shove more people out onto the beach and tell them that the shark's not a problem.
Well, to sum up the year so far, I feel like I'm on the U-boat in Das Boat getting depth charged by the Royal Navy.
Nice. Hey, we got to cover Das Boat at some time.
That's true.
You guys can do that. I don't know. Not a fan, but it's okay. It's not my, it's not my thing. But we'll have you do that with Joe or somebody or Alfred.
I'd be happy to.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much. And if you guys stick around real quick, I'll say something to you guys, and then just want to say bye, everybody.
Bye.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yep.
We're going to need a bigger cow.
This year-